picked the wrong. Quit sniffing glue.
Greetings, Starfighter. You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada. Get ready? Prepare for blast-off.
Hello, welcome. It's time for another week of model building. And new week, new model, yay. That's always good, starting off fresh. And I was pouring through the stash all weekend. Not this luxurious stash, but the model stash, as we all have. Don't be ashamed to admit it, you've got a model stash. And I'm trying to figure out what it is I wanted to build next. And I had a couple simple rules. A, no more figures. I've done like 3 figures in a row, if you count Batgirl and the Gundam and Kane. I've kind of figured out. I figured out that I was figured out. And that I wanted to do resin. It's time, summertime. You can take stuff outside and sand and clean, and that stuff's better off done out where it's better ventilated. And summertime's the time to do that. When you're locked up indoors in the winter, you build your styrene kits. So I was going through the stash and thinking, what do I want to build? Resin, ship, resin, ship, resin, and then I had it narrowed down to 3 possibilities. And I think you'll like what I decided to finally choose. Let's go see. Yes, it is the Black Sun Models Gunstar 1/171st scale, 1/72nd scale, and I've laid out the parts here on the table. Now, if you have watched any of my videos any length of time, you will have seen this on the wall. Right next to Star Wars is my poster from The Last Starfighter. This was taken from the theater I was working at the time, so I have seen this movie quite a few times. But that was when I spent some of my misspent youth working in a movie theater. This was one of the posters I was first to snag and bring home. So you could tell this movie has been a major influence in my formative years. And I'm looking at this kit, and it meets all of my requirements. A, it's resin. B, it's a kit. It's a ship, and there's just the right amount of detail possible that you can really go nuts on it. The castings are all expertly done. They might have a little bit of flash to clean up, but nowhere near as bad as the other 2 contenders that I was thinking of. So the cleanup is going to go easier. The only quandary that I'm in is, of course, everyone knows this ship is famous for having the Death Blossom panels. When at the conclusion of the film, spoiler for 30-year-old movie, 30-plus-year-old movie, that the Death Blossom panels open up, and you can either show that way, or you can show it in its landed configuration with the landing gear sticking down. And they're both beautiful alternatives, but you kind of only have to pick one. So I'm just trying to decide whether or not I want to. I think I want to build it in flight with the Death Blossom panels open, but maybe I'll have the landing gear down as well. Like Alex had flipped the wrong switch by mistake and opened up the landing gear. We'll have to see where that lands. And I'm not sure yet how much lighting I want to do. Obviously, I would like to light up the main engines. But I don't know whether I'm going to try to light up, the little guns and all that kind of stuff. I probably want to put a light or 2 in the cockpit. I don't know if I'll be able to light up the heads-up display. I'll have to think about that. But how elaborate I want to get with it is the question. Because I'm thinking I've got a month left. We're on a month countdown to Wonderfest. And I'm wondering if I can do this justice and get it painted in a month. I was looking at all the stuff I had to take to Wonderfest this year, and it's mostly figures. And I'm a vehicle guy. I like building vehicles, so I'm kind of low on the vehicle count. So maybe if I can get this done in time, then it will go to Wonderfest along with all the figures that I've painted. So no more hemming and hawing. It's time to wash the parts. But I'll tell you what I want to do first. Is I want to probably do a lot of cleanup of the parts first before I wash them. No sense washing them and then having to handle them again. So I'm going to do some sanding and some fitting, and then I will make them hit the old degreaser. Okay, it's Tuesday, and you're looking at some thrilling soaking going on. These are all resin parts, and because they are resin parts, they need to get a good degreased soaking to get the mold release off of them. And I am anticipating, because this kit will have a lot of metallic finishes, that it's going to be a bit more of a bugger to keep clean and fingerprint proof and all that kind of stuff. So cleaning the surface, giving it a real good prep is going to be more important, I would say, on this kit than some others. It's going to get a very light primer coats, and then we're going to start into the various metal finishes, and that's always a recipe for trouble. So once these have cleaned, I will put the bigger pieces in. So first round is being washed even as we speak. Yeah, you can see all the parts are laid out now and drying. They've been washed and toothbrushed within an inch of their life, and they're been dried and rinsed off and all of that. So this is where I'm going to let it sit overnight. If you can tell by the fact that I'm in here, that means I've got an order plotting in the studio, so I can't get to the work desk. So this is where we are going to leave it for tonight. Welcome back. It is Wednesday afternoon, and I'm trying something a little different on this build of the Gunstar one. My normal procedure on a resin kit is to wash all the parts. You saw me do that. And then clean all the parts. You probably didn't see me do that, but it was, tedious little nitpicking, it seems. And then I would prime all the parts, and then I would start construction. I'm going to try something different this time, and that is to, I've washed everything, I've cleaned all the parts up. I am putting it together in major subassemblies before I prime it. And the reason is, this piece has got some really good, or this model has got some really good engineering and very close tolerances to it. And what I decided to do was to do some of these assemblies and then prime it, because sometimes the primer paint gets in the way of the areas that you need to glue together. You end up sanding down the primer anyway. And I've been noticing lately that a lot of my kits have too many coats of paint on them. They've just been building, the paint builds up. So I thought I would eliminate the original priming until I get to a point where I have the subassembly all sanded down and ready to be primed. We're going to see if that works any better at alleviating some of the layers of paint that get built up. So, having said that, I've got parts put together and a little bit of putty on it, and I will wait for the putty to dry and then sand that down. And then I still have to figure out whether or not I'm going to light this. It's a shame not to light it. The engine's in the back at least, and then maybe put one light in the cockpit at least. I know that my good friend Simon Merckx made a version of this kit, which I believe was the bigger version of this, and he went all out. He lit all of the thrusters and all of the guns, and really did a magnificent job with his build. But he was also working with a larger kit where it was easier to get at these things. And really, this piece is solid. I'd have to do a heck of a lot of hollowing out the inside to get to where I could put lights in those. So I'm thinking I may settle for just the main engines, because those are hollow and easier to get to, and I can channel wires through the body in such a way that I can light those main engines up. And then I may, like I said, put something in the cockpit. I won't be able to light up the instruments or anything, but I'll put something up there. So that's where we're at. I am letting parts dry, and then I'll try to hit them with a coat of primer tonight. Good morning. It is Thursday. It is the gateway to the weekend. It is, more importantly, the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. I have to tell you, I heard the best parody songs today, and I'm going to put the link at the bottom of the screen right here. Wait for it. And I'm going to recommend you all go and check this out and download these songs. Somebody has taken, or not somebody, these two very intelligent and talented people have taken the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album and redone it completely as Star Wars parody, and it's wonderful. You have to listen to the whole thing. Best way I could think to start May 4th off. Anyway, we are down to finally starting to put some primer paint on the Gunstar. And I have made the monumental decision, yes, I am not going to light it. Not going to light it. It's going to be a static piece with no lights, with the Death Blossom doors open. And the reason I came to that conclusion was it's such a beautiful and elegant design that I really don't want to have to hassle with running wires out of a stand to power it. And I didn't want to have to try to open up a box on it somewhere to put a switch and a battery. I've done that. I've done it a lot lately, and really I think just doing a really nice finish and making a nice presentation out of it will be sufficient without having to light this. It's not really big enough to do the full Magilla lighting that I would like to do, which would be, you know, in the cockpit and in all of the thrusters, like Simon did. Simon Merckx did a beautiful build of a larger version of this kit, and he was able to light up every blessed blinky there was, and more power to him. I just can't do it with this smaller one. I don't have the skills. So I'm going to do the best job I can of just painting it without lighting it. The windows, the cockpit is big enough that you could see in and see the detail without needing any extra light. So that's what I'm going to do. So right now I'm going to take these parts outside and put some primer sealer on them and get them ready. I've got tape blocking where the attachment points are, because I don't want to put too much. I don't want them to get primed. I want to be able to epoxy the bare resin to the bare resin, as it were. So let me go put some sealer on this. Okay, I've got a coat of primer on the major parts of the Gunstar, and I'm going around and touching up and pointing in and doing a little bit of puttying. And the thing about the Gunstar that I want to stress on this build is the lack of gaps. Like, there's a gap there. I'm going to fill that in with some probably some tulip to fit in there, because this should be really smooth, sleek lines on this. As being a resin kits don't always go exactly together very smoothly, so I want to remove any chance of having too many gaps. But it's looking very good. It's going together well. It's just, like I said, there's some little gaposes that need to be addressed. Well, good morning and welcome back. It is Friday morning. Yes, almost the weekend. Yay! And first of all, I would have to say that I don't know what day you're watching this, but go out and see Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It came out today. I saw a early showing of it last night in the 3D. Was spectacular, but that's neither here nor there. It's raining out today. It's ugly, so no wide-scale painting will be done. I may be able to step out quickly and put some primer on this and bring it back in. So I am still noodling together the paint scheme for this, and there seems to be a lot of public consensus that this should be silver, but I don't see where that's necessarily so. They may be conflating the early CGI-ness of the computer graphics with a silver finish, and I don't see where that has to be. I'm probably going to go with more of a milky gray, white metallic-y kind of a color, which will allow the silver things that I really think should be silver, like the nozzles on the engines and thrusters and such like that, to stand out more if they are silver and the rest of the ship is not. So I'm still going to think about that over the weekend, but today I am going to decide how much more construction I want to do, and then how much I want to paint separately. I think I want to paint the engine separately, but once you put the bottom of the thruster on, they become very unwieldy because there is no real straight angle for them to sit. Sorry about the loud noise. For them to sit anywhere. So trying to figure out whether I need to paint it like this and then add this piece on afterwards or not is an issue. And then figuring out how much of these wings I want to put on the body and then paint that all up at once, or do I want to paint the fuselage as one piece and then attach these? That's going to be the next issue. So trying to figure that out. I'm working on some details as far as the landing gear, putting the pads on. They give you parts for the open. If you want to use the landing gear extended, you put these open doors on there. But I am not going to open up the landing gear. And when I try to put those pads over the holes there, they are much too big. So I'm either going to have to sand those down a lot or just scratch build some other hatches for the bottom of those. That might be quicker. And then the last thing is to work on this cockpit today, because I was playing with all of the parts needed that you need to jam in here, and that they all work nicely and everything's fine and happy until you put the cockpit over top of it, and it is not easy to fit over top of that ring. So the supports for the ring have to be sanded down a little bit. That's these guys here. That's those guys there. I have to sand those down a little bit to get them to fit. So it's one of those deals where you have to have pretty much the cockpit painted, and you can always you know, put some tape over this to keep it clean while the rest of the ship is being painted. But I have to decide whether I want to do all the cockpit and paint it, or whether I want to paint the fuselage and then start working on the cockpit. It's one of those chicken and egg things. So that fits in there real nicely, and you are going to see be able to see a fair amount of detail, because this resin is very clear. This is not styrene. This is clear cast resin, and a very good job done of it. But I need to paint the frames on those windows as well. So lots of things to think about, lots of things to do, and last day of the week to do it. So let's get down to the work at hand. Okay, I thought a slight change of pace, I would go ahead and paint the canopy. I've got some masks that I have made for the windows, and cut those out and stuck them down, and now I can I'm going to tape off the inside so that there's no overspray, and I'll go ahead and put a coat of the gray primer on top of that, and then we'll decide what color they're going to be after that. Okay, here's a little bit of twisted anatomy for you. Something I noticed that's on both figures. It's not limited to just the one. Here is your Grig pilot chair. Now, if you're going to put Grig in the Grig pilot chair, you sit Grig down like that. Everything seems to be fine. I mean, it looks it's a bit Lincoln Memorial compared to, you know, how big the figure sits in the actual chair. Just having rewatched the movie, the chair isn't quite this, you know, massive around him. That's not so bad. It's putting Alex in, and I'm going to take the little viewfinder out for right now. It's putting Alex in the swivel chair of doom, that where you really notice the problem, because if you can see that carefully, he's levitating a good 1/8 of an inch off of the chair, and he needs to be, you know, sitting down in there. His head should be about the same height as the headrest, so that he needs to be put down about like I say, about 1/8 of an inch, so his little keister is sitting in the chair. Now you could say, oh well, maybe that's not the right figure, maybe that's Grig and you've got him in Alex's chair. Well, there's 3 figures that are provided with this kit. 2 are the same and 1's different. And the one that's different has got his arms splayed out a little bit, like you would imagine Alex to do if he's running the consoles, because the controls are set fairly wide apart. But I'll go ahead and put the other one in that chair, and it's the same problem. Same figure, the other figure in the chair, and he's also levitating a bit. So to make these work, I'm going to have to do a little bit of amputation at the knee and refigure out how to make the legs. See, I'm just going to have to cut them off at the knees, and then take some height out of those legs to make it fit. So, you know, part surgeon, part model builder, you know, the kind of skills you have to imagine yourself having when you are starting to build a model. And let's see, you put the Lincoln Memorial, oops, sorry, back there. Put the Lincoln Memorial chair, again, kind of oversized, into the cockpit. Yeah, I'm going to have to shave down that peg because it's a little bit too big. Yeah, it goes in something like that. There you go. And then you put, either Alex or Greg would fit in this chair. It's the other chair that's got the problems. And I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to make this guy Alex. I'm going to make the other guy Alex. This guy's going to be Greg and fit in this chair by himself, since he seems to go okay. And he still needs to have his other arm put on as a separate piece. But I'm still playing with noodling ideas about paint schemes. I know certain things, like this part of these four shafts needs to be black or a very, very dark gray. I'm not probably going to put any actual black on here except for the decals. That'll probably be a very, very dark gray or a NATO black, which is close to black. And then I know that this inset of these panels is a darker color than the main body. And I know that these panels back here are a darker panel than the rest of the main body. But it's going to be a question of finding out what that main body color wants to be. That's going to be the big issue. And I am pretty sure I am going to get these guys attached this afternoon before I build up. Let me see if I can zoom back out. Whoops, that's a zoom in. Yeah, I knew I had some zoom left on there. Get these guys attached to either side before I do the next round of painting. So I think that's going to be the next step, is putting these guys on. Okay, and it looks like we've got both pilot and co-pilot in place. Now, none of that's glued down yet. I'm just checking it for size right now. Certainly need to paint it before I put it in place, but I wanted to do this kind of manhandling with the cockpit and all that kind of stuff before I put the two wings, so to speak, on, because it's just easier to handle this way. But now that I've got these guys kind of figured out, even if I don't have them glued down yet, I can go ahead and let's get the gung-ho iguana out of his seat. Get the big chair out. Yeah, I'm gonna knock that down a little bit. I can go ahead and get the big wings epoxied on, and I think I am going to use epoxy on those because they are big and substantial. So let's get that mixed up. And this jangled mess is where we're going to leave the Starfighter for this week, while I concentrate on figuring out how I'm going to paint the bloody thing. But I got the parts that I know are going to be painted. This is a NATO black. This is not a true black. And I know that some of these parts need to be this black color, so I went ahead and painted them. And then I'll work the other colors in around it. But that's it for this week. And that's going to do it for this week. Man, the weeks are going by real quick. And we only have a scant few of them before we get to Underfest, so I've got to get cracking. I got to figure out what I'm going to be taking and give it a last minute polish and spruce up some things. So want to get this Gunstar done, and I think we're going to get a lot of it done next week if we don't finish it completely. It is down to the painting, since I'm not going to be lighting it or anything. The painting is all it needs to be done, and that's what we're going to do next week. So until then, be good to each other, and take it easy out there, and we'll see you back here next time.